Hello everyone, my name is Justin Tang, and joining me again is Nick Jackson. Say hello, Nick.
Hello, Jacksonites. Been a long time no see, hasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly has been. And this was kind of a rushed video. I mean, it's probably more rushed than Godzilla Raids Again, but...
Well, I posted this idea to Justin, I think it was, about a month ago or so? See, I had recently seen a video with somebody listing off their top 30 Godzilla kaiju, ranging... I don't think there's 30 Godzilla kaiju, but they listed their least favorite Godzilla monster all the way to their absolute favorite. Surprisingly, it wasn't Godzilla who was number one. I think it was Gigan. And that got me thinking, why don't I do something like that? So I asked Justin, hey, how about we do our top 20 favorite kaiju list? And I don't think he was quite on board with that at first, but I guess it kind of grew on him. So I guess here we are, and I'm really excited to get this going.
Yeah, so my list went through several different phases because at first it was a top 15, and then I decided a top 20, and then I decided to include some other Disney monsters in there, so...
That's got me a little intrigued, because I can't think of a single Disney monster.
Well, you'll see, but anyways, your number 20?
My number 20. Now, let me get a disclaimer out here, too. There's a lot of Ultraman kaiju on my list. You know, the Godzilla series is full of great monsters and all that, and this list does have Godzilla kaiju. And one of your rules for this was there's Godzilla's not allowed to be on this, and there's no mecha monsters on this, which I think is a little disappointing, but my disclaimer, there's a lot of Ultraman kaiju, so whenever there's an Ultraman kaiju on this list, I will refer to which Ultraman series it was from.
Yeah, I mean, Ultraman has been a really lucrative series. I mean, you sent all these images onto my personal message, so...
Yeah, I did. That's for you to use when you start editing this. So number 20, Dimaga from Ultraman X. I'll be perfectly honest, I never was the biggest fan of Ultraman X. When it was playing, a lot of people were raving about how great Ultraman X is. And I've seen about 12 episodes of Ultraman X, and to be perfectly honest, I wasn't blown away. But there was a couple of monsters from Ultraman X that I really liked, and my favorite, without a doubt, is Dimaga. Mainly just because Dimaga kind of looks like a more Ultraman-esque version of the Godzilla 2000 suit. You can fire a reddish-orange beam from its mouth. Its dorsal spines are very sharp and jagged and curvy, and they glow orange just like Godzilla 2000. And while I'm not as big a fan of the Godzilla 2000 suit as I used to be, I do still like it, and I get the feeling that the suit designer for Dimaga took a couple hints from the 2000 suit and put it into Dimaga. Not to mention, I do think that Dimaga is a complete and utter badass, even though he's kind of been demoted into one of those cannon fodder monsters nowadays in the Ultraman franchise. I do still think Dimaga is a very, very cool monster, and definitely is one that I would love to see more of.
I mean, looking at his design, he kind of has that sort of like top-heavy posture to his body, and also has a head very similar to Gauss.
Like a heavy hitter type monster.
Yes, I know. Like, and the whole top-heavy is very common with the Pacific Rim kaijus as well. So
that's true. Especially
yes,
with the Leatherback.
Yes, and especially the crest really reminds me of Gauss or the Mutos, if you think about it.
I can see the Gauss, but not the Mutos, no.
Yeah, and also the horizontal spikes above his shoulders is really interesting. Like, I don't think I've really seen that before outside of Scunner.
No, nothing wrong with being different. So what's your number 20?
Okay, so my number 20 is the V-Rex from King Kong 05. Now, at first glance, I
almost put that one on my list.
Yes, I know. But anyways, the V-Rex from the surface, it's kind of like your typical run-of-the-mill dinosaur. But what really gets me about the V-Rex is that it's basically taking the 1930s interpretation of the T-Rex and upgrading it to look more plausible, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the design? Does it stand out, or is it a little generic, or...?
Oh, I love the V-Rex. I think that the V-Rex certainly is a very good adversary. Like, he was a very well-designed adversary for Kong to fight. I love how large its jaw is, because it certainly looks like it's a monster that certainly could take on a lot of powerful animals on the island using just its mouth. I like the design for its skin. It's very alligator or crocodilian-esque. I also love its color. It's a very dull gray. Overall, I really do like the V-Rex, but I didn't put it on my list because it didn't have that much of an impact on me, even as a kid. I mean, I love Kong 05. It's a great film. It's my second favorite Kong film. But for the record, King Kong isn't on my list either. But V-Rex just didn't really have that much of an impact on me when I was younger. I mean, he certainly doesn't live up to Godzilla or Gamera.
I mean, you did bring this up that he was a really powerful adversary, and it kind of reminds me of Bill's review on Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie, where he describes the V-Rex as basically a huge walking mouth that's trying to eat you.
That's true.
Yes, I know.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I also like the idea that the V-Rexes are very coordinated in their attacks, like they hunt in packs, which I think is a really cool concept. And
oh yeah, absolutely. And there have been theories that the T-Rex were pack hunters, which I think could have been possible, but I don't really think that theory holds a lot of water nowadays, but it could have been possible. But overall, the V-Rex is a complete and utter badass.
yeah, go figure. So, yeah, the V-Rex is awesome in the movie as well as the game, and yeah, I really feel that it sort of captures the spirit of the T-Rex from the original. So, your number 19?
My number 19, you may think this is really small for a monster, but I just kind of threw it in there anyway because you're including Disney monsters, so I figured what the fuck. My number 19 is the Pred Alien from Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Now, let me get this out of the way. I am a big fan of the Alien series, but I absolutely despise Alien vs. Predator Requiem. I think it's a terrible, terrible movie. It's got terrible characters. The lighting in the film is absolutely atrocious. It is so dark. 65% of the movie you can barely see.
I mean, is it darker than Godzilla 2014 during the end fight?
It's debatable. It really is debatable. Though at least with Godzilla 2014, it's 3D Blu-ray disc, clean of the blackness. Oh, your dog's barking.
Yeah, I know. Fuck them.
But I absolutely hate Alien vs. Predator Requiem, but it does have a couple of good things going for it. One is the fact that the one and only Predator in the film is a complete and utter badass. He can take on a whole army of xenomorphs on his own. This definitely goes to show that he is a badass. And the best thing about Alien vs. Predator Requiem is the Predalien, a Predator-Alien hybrid, which I'm sure there have been many, many AVP fans before this film came out who really wanted to see a Predator-Xenomorph hybrid. It was teased at the very end of Alien vs. Predator when the chest burster burst out of the main hero Predator in that film, and we had to wait 3 years to see AVPR. It was a shitty movie, but the Pred Alien was wonderfully, wonderfully executed in AVPR. It has a sense of threat to it. It clearly showed that it was a badass, and it was very competent in taking on both the Yautja and the humans. And overall, it has a really, really good design. To me, it's like a perfect blend of design traits from both a standard Yautja and a standard Xenomorph. Overall, the Pred Alien is the best thing about a shitty movie, and is the only thing keeping me from saying that AVPR is one of the absolute worst movies ever made.
Yeah, so Pred Alien is basically like Zigra, who saves the movie from getting a complete zero.
Yeah, pretty much. That's actually an interesting analogy when you think about it.
Yeah, but since you've already mentioned it in several other videos, I might as well throw it in there.
So what's your 19?
Okay, so my number 19 is the Meganulons from the original Rodan. Really, really creepy in the way that they're executed, and they're built up very slowly and very ominously. And when you first see it, it's kind of like a jump scare. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts in the original Meganulon, I'm a little sort of kind of indifferent about them. I mean, they're far from the worst thing about Rodan. I like Rodan a lot. I think it is one of my favorite kaiju films. It's a great film. The Meganulons, they were a good way to get a film started. In fact, one of the things that I really like about the Meganulon, but it's also kind of something that I don't, it's not that I dislike, I just kind of think it's a shame. A whole movie could have been made around the Meganulons, if you ask me. It could have been like a prototypical Aliens type of thing, where you just come to this small mining town that's suddenly being invaded by these giant bugs, and they eventually start killing them off. They find the nest with the queen Meganulon. I think that would have been a really cool idea for a movie. In fact, it kind of sounds similar to them.
Yes, I know. That's why I said, like Patrick said, that the first half of Rodan is basically like a Japanese remake of them, basically with giant killer insects.
Oh, I never heard him say that.
Yes, he did say it in the Rodan chat that he did with Andrew and Joe.
In that sense, he's kind of right. And the Meganulon, I like the design. The only thing that bugs me is their lobster claws. I just kind of think they're a little disproportionate to the rest of the body. I think the Meganulons would have been more effective if they just had like a large jaw that they could have used to snag onto their prey. Their lobster claw arms, they don't look like they fit the design. But outside of that, I really do like the Meganulons. The suit is well designed. It certainly looks very creepy. It looks very buggish, but it also looks very alien. Overall, the Meganulons, they're great. They're really great.
Yes, now going back to the claws being very disproportionate, I could sort of look past that because when the claws are disproportionate to the rest of the body, perhaps it makes them look even more freakish, especially with the dark lighting.
That could be true.
But overall, like the Megalodons, they're portrayed very well in the movie, and they're also really cold-blooded monsters because they don't just eat the humans. Like they actually sensibly kill them in cold blood. So they're very sadistic and truly brutish creatures. Yes, I know, and I don't think we get another monster like this in the rest of the series. I mean, Gyra, he just eats for sustenance, whereas the Megalodons are outright murdering people, essentially.
Yep, that is true. So,
your number 18?
My number 18 is Tyrant from Ultraman Taro. Now, I'm not really that big of a fan of hybrid monsters because I just kind of think that's a lazy way of redoing old ideas and trying to make it new. In the Ultraman franchise, there's a lot of hybrid monsters throughout the series. I mean, you have Tyrant, you have Esmail from Ultraman Nexus, you have Gariza from Ultraman X, you have Five King from Ultraman Ginga S. But I think of all the hybrid monsters, Tyrant is really the one that they did it right and they did it well every single time. I love the design for Tyrant. He looks like a complete and utter badass. Not to mention, the name Tyrant encapsulates power. It lets you know that, okay, this monster is nothing to be fucked around with.
Yes, I mean, looking at his overall design, like, he looks like he's absolutely ready to do business. And he kind of looks, I hate to say it, but his head kind of looks really similar to Baragon, if you think about it.
The only way I can kind of see that, yes, is in the large tusks and the snout horn and the big eyes. Outside of that, I don't think he looks that similar.
What about them big-ass floppy ears? Does that sort of remind you?
Nah, not really.
Now, looking at his mace as well as his axe, it does look very disproportionate, which it can also convey a sense of looking formidable and...
Yeah, that is true. And I'll admit, when I first saw Tyrant, actually the axe and the mace hands, they were the thing that just really bugged me about the Tyrant design. But they have kind of grown on me, though I do kind of wish that his axe hand was like a normal 5-digited hand and he just retained his mace arm. Because that prong on his mace can actually extend out like a chain whip and wrap around his opponents. But I'm fine with the axe and the mace hand now. And overall, Tyrant, he is a complete and utter badass. And every appearance that he's in, he's been a complete juggernaut and has been a big challenge for all Ultras to take down.
Yeah, he's basically like the medieval reptilian version of Gigan in a sort of way.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Well, maybe a little bit, but I think it's a little bit of a stretch. But I can see where you're going with that. So you're number 18.
Okay, so my number 18 is the Skull Crawlers from Kong Skull Island. And yes, I know, the Skull Crawlers are really cool looking monsters, and I especially like the idea of them taking the two-legged lizard design from the original and then putting it into this new version. Which, if you think about how dinosaurs would evolve, that actually kind of makes sense that the forearms would be useless and then they would sort of devolve into like just having these two legs that they can easily do battle with. And yeah, I also like the ideas of the skull crawlers being in a constant state of hunger, and it really shows by the exterior designs. They do have a very thin layer of skin outside of the head where you can see the vertebrae. Also kind of reminds me of Baragon's back with the Scuts.
Oh yeah, I can see that too. For me, the skull crawlers, they're not quite one of my favorite monsters, but they certainly are an original idea. In fact, I don't think I would have liked Kong Skull Island as much if they just used generic dinosaurs. So I would have liked if they had a couple, not dinosaurs, but more dinosaurian-esque creatures. I mean, don't get me wrong, Kong Skull Island is still my favorite Kong film. The skull crawlers, I feel like they're kind of like with the V-Rex. The skull crawlers are very good adversaries for Kong to fight. They definitely seem like they were created not only just to be nasty little bastards, but just to be good opponents for Kong, and I absolutely love that about them. And yes, I can see the design traits that were inspired by that two-legged lizard from the original King Kong. And it's kind of funny that you take such a minor little monster that is only in like 10 seconds in a movie and expand that into making something that's fresh and new. in a much more superior film.
Other than the two-legged lizards, don't you think Kamada-kun also fits the category similarly?
No, not really. I don't get the sense that Kamada-kun, or however the hell you say that, is similar to the skull crawlers in any way.
Other than that, they have 2 legs, that's all.
Other than they have 2 legs and long tails, no, I don't get a sense of similarity.
Yes, and they're also really tough creatures, and makes it really apparent when Khan basically throws that boulder at the big one, and he's basically fine.
Yep, and you said that them being in a constant state of hunger. I also like that too, because it definitely goes to show that these little bastards are threatening little shits, because they're just constantly searching for food, meaning you constantly have to be on the run. It definitely gives a thrilling edge to the sense of danger, which they're kind of like kaiju versions of zombies.
Yes, and also, since they're always moving around and looking for stuff to eat, they're basically open and confrontational as opposed to ambush predators.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I wouldn't be surprised if they do ambush their prey from time to time.
So, yeah, skullcrawlers are really cool monsters, and what's your number 17?
My number 17, this one may surprise you. The Indominus Rex from Jurassic World. Now, I have a little bit of a funny history with Jurassic World. I didn't see it in theaters, though goddamn I wish I did. I resisted buying it for a long time, till eventually I finally did, but I didn't watch it for 2 months. It wasn't until Dylan McIntosh convinced me that, yeah, Jurassic World is pretty damn good, and so I finally got around to watching it, and he wasn't wrong. I was not disappointed. Jurassic World, I think, is the best Jurassic Park film since the original. There's been a couple people out there who dislike it, and Adam, but I think anybody who dislikes Jurassic World, they're making a mountain out of a molehill. I really do think that Jurassic World is a great, great film. And the villainous dinosaur for that film was simply amazing. I absolutely love the Indominus Rex. I love its design. I love that it's an intelligent creature. I love intelligent monsters. I love the fact that it essentially is a monster. Yes, it's also a dinosaur, but I think it's more a monster than that, because it's a hybrid of so many different pieces of animals. I mean, you have the body of a Giganotosaurus. You have the jaws of a T-Rex. You have the intelligence of the Velociraptors. You have the cloaking abilities of the Carnotaurus. You have the claws of the Therizinosaurus. The Indominus Rex is a complete and utter badass. And I really do hope that these supposed Indoraptors, I hope they live up to the Indominus Rex. And I do hope that we do get to see a fully grown Indominus Rex, because apparently the one in Jurassic World wasn't a fully grown specimen. So
yeah, I've always loved the Therizinosaurus' giant-ass claws.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like giant-ass claws make any dinosaur look formidable. And kaiju for that matter. That's why I put them on my design of Manda.
Oh, nice.
Yes, but...
So overall, not much to say about the Indo. I absolutely love the Indominus Rex. It's a complete and utter badass. And whoever thought of the Indominus Rex, I hope he was paid well, because he did a very good job. Well done.
Alright, my number 17 is Tamatoa, the giant crab from Moana.
No, I've never seen that.
Oh, come on, man. But anyways, he has like the best song in the whole movie, and he's so extravagant, very flashy. He likes to brag a lot, and I just like his design in general, in that he's covered in gold from treasure, and...
Sounds like an interesting design.
Yes, I know. Like, he's much more awesome than Ebra. I mean, Tamatoa lost a leg, and he still keeps going, whereas Ebra just runs away after losing 2 claws. Yeah, Ebra's a fucking pussy. I mean, he's even bigger of a pussy than Zilla 98, so...
I wouldn't say that, but yeah, it's debatable.
Yeah, but still, like, awesome song and voice acting, and I don't know what else to say about him at the moment. So, your number 16?
My number 16, this may come as a little bit of a surprise to you, because when I reviewed this movie, I called it a complete shit show. Number 16 is Megalon. Godzilla vs. Megalon, yeah, it's a shitty movie. It's very rushed. I'd say it's even more rushed than Godzilla Rage Again. It's littered with stock footage. It's littered with bad voice acting from the English dub. It's littered with a completely generic plot that does absolutely nothing new for the franchise. In fact, I would actually go as far to say it's probably Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla of the late Showa era. If you completely skipped Godzilla vs. Megalon, you would not miss a single thing. I mean, I don't hate Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, but I do agree, if you were to skip that film, you would be missing absolutely nothing from the Heisei Godzilla movies. But I do really like Megalon. I think Megalon, he's a very good partner for Gigan, but I also do think that he's one of those monsters that could stand on his own when he's away from his partner. Same for with Gigan. Now, yes, Megalon was clearly inspired by Gigan, but I just kind of think it was in design type only. Whereas Gigan, he's a flyer, he's a close-range combatant, he is from space. Megalon is from underground. He's kind of a mid to long-range combatant. He's earthbound, whereas Gigan is spacebound. And both monsters are pretty different enough from each other to be their own thing. And Megalon, while yes, he is an idiot, he's a complete and utter idiot, I do think that he's a badass, and he's one of my favorite monsters to play as in the Atari Godzilla trilogy.
Yeah, it's a shame that he wasn't in Godzilla PS4. I mean, that would be awesome, too.
Yeah, that would have been kind of cool. So what's your number 16?
Okay, so my number 16 is Knifehead from Pacific Rim. I really like his general shape. I know he doesn't do that much, but I love his general design of him, like, looking very fish-like. He's very pointed and very formidable, and especially the nose just sticks out to me like so much. Like, there's some scenes where he pops his head out of the water and his nose just swallows the whole screen.
Well, I'll admit, none of the Pacific Rim kaiju really rock my world. They're well designed. I like the fact that they use a lot of neon colors, because I'm a sucker for neon colors. I mean, hell, Avatar is my favorite film of all time, and that movie's full of neon colors. And they're well designed, and I definitely don't really get the feeling that they're rip-offs of any particular monster, though Bill stated in his Gamma vs. Guiron review that Guiron might have been the inspiration for Knifehead, which I can see that, and I definitely do kind of agree with it. But Knifehead, he was definitely a good introduction monster for Gypsy Danger. He has a good design, though overall, he's kind of one of my least favorite kaiju seen in Pacific Rim. My absolute favorite kaiju is Leatherback. I absolutely love Leatherback.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Total badass.
Yeah.
Knifehead, I don't have that much to say about Knifehead.
Yeah, it doesn't do much other than kill Relay's brother, but...
Yeah, pretty much.
Actually, I also made the comparison of Knifehead resembling Zigra as well.
I can see that too. The pointed nose and a lot of the horizontal and streamlined shapes from Zigra, I definitely can kind of see that in Knifehead as well. Though I think he was more inspired by Guiron than Zigra, but I can see the Zigra traits.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so your number 15?
My number 15, Red King from the Ultraman franchise. Red King is definitely a monster that Tsuburaya Productions struck gold with, because Red King is one of those monsters that's made many appearances throughout the Ultraman franchise. There was the original Ultraman, which he appeared in twice. He was in Ultraman 80. He was in the Ultraman Jonius anime. He was in Ultraman Powered, Ultraman Max, Ultraman Mebius, and Ultra Galaxy Legends. He's definitely a very popular monster, and I definitely would say he's one of the most powerful Ultra Kaiju, despite being kind of like the Anguirus of the Ultraman franchise, and the fact that he's a pure melee combatant, unless you count the Ultraman Max version, which was able to spit explosive rocks from his mouth. It's a little ridiculous, I'll admit, but hey, for him, it kind of fit. Overall, Red King, at first I was just kind of indifferent about Red King's design, but Red King has definitely grown on me, and I definitely would say he's one of the Ultraman franchise's big five in terms of its kaiju.
Yeah, he's basically the Michelin Man of kaijus.
A little bit, yeah, though I think there's a few other Ultra Kaiju that look more similar to the Michelin Man. But yeah, I definitely can kind of see that. But overall, Red King, he's just a complete total juggernaut. It, rightfully so, is one of the most popular Ultra Kaiju.
I just want to ask you this. Does it bother you when they reused Gyra's roars for some of these monsters?
Yes and no. Sometimes it's a little annoying, but other times I don't really mind. I mean, yes, Red King's roar is pretty similar to Gyra's roar, though I ultimately think it's more fitting for Red King. And not just the fact that I don't like Gyra. I saw Red King first before I saw Gyra, so I remember that roar more from Red King than I do from Gyra.
Well, especially since Tsuburaya Productions was in bed with Toho very frequently.
Oh yeah, I know that. I mean, hell, the Godzilla suit was used twice. Once in the original Ultra Q to create the monster Gomez, and also, again, in the original Ultraman to create Chiros.
Oh, don't even get me started on that.
Yeah, I definitely like Gomez a lot better than Gyrus or Chiros, however the hell you pronounce it, because at least with Gomez, you can't really tell that's supposed to be the Godzilla suit. Whereas with Gyrus, you couldn't be more obvious if you tried.
No shit. Yeah,
what's your
so
15?
that was ranking, and my number 15 is Hedorah. Now, as a monster on his own, Hedorah is pretty cool. I mean, he's basically very symbolic, just like Godzilla was in his first movie. He was very...
certainly.
Yeah, totally. And he's very creepy. I just love the way he's executed in general as this really abstract and nightmarish creature that comes from pollution and metamorphosizes into several forms. Kind of like Destroyer.
Yep.
I love his original concept, and I like his roar, and his sound effects are really eerie and nightmarish, and overall Hedorah is a cool monster. It's just his movie that I'm not really crazy about.
I can understand why people would not like Godzilla vs. Ghidorah. I can see the flaws in the film. It is a flawed movie. It suffers from a kind of low budget because, to quote Adam from one of his live streams, Yoshi Mitsubana was just given $10 and a ham sandwich to make it. But, I think he did really well with what he had. And I do think that Godzilla vs. Ghidorah is one of the best Godzilla movies. And I'm not saying that through rose-tinted glasses because I love the movie. I definitely do think it's one of the best Godzilla movies ever made because Ghidorah is just as symbolic as Godzilla is symbolic. He symbolizes pollution. He symbolizes man pretty much poisoning the earth, and this is what spawned from that poison. And not to mention, of all the monsters that Godzilla has faced, there's been a few monsters that have legitimately run Godzilla through the ringer in terms of fights. There's Gigan, there's Mechagodzilla, there's Space Godzilla, Destroya, but I legitimately do think that Ghidorah was Godzilla's most challenging adversary. He literally gets the shit beaten out of him in that movie, and he still keeps going. And I'll give Ghidorah many, many props because he was able to knock the king of the monsters on his ass multiple times. So Ghidorah is a complete and utter badass. But I'll give a little spoiler. He's not on my list because there's just 14 other kaiju that I like a lot more than Ghidorah. But if I had a runner-ups list, Ghidorah would definitely be on it.
Yeah, go figure. I mean, I really like his character and his concept, and that's pretty much all I can say regarding him. Your number 14?
My number 14, the Showa Gigan. I absolutely love the Showa Gigan. Even though I've heard some people say that's like a cyborg chicken monster, I don't really see the chicken aspect except maybe in Gigan's beak, but that's about it. Gigan, I think he's one of the most originally designed monsters out there. I like his personality, meaning that he's like the backstabbing betrayer asshole of kaiju. He also seems like a very sadistic and cunning little bastard. I also love his powers. Even though we never did see his laser beam utilized in any of Gigan's appearances, at least in the Showa series. Obviously, Showa Gigan's been used in more modern games, and he has his laser vision, which I really do like that. I also like the fact that even though he has a projectile weapon, he's a close-quarters combatant. For some characters, I really do like that aspect. I think Gigan is the best for that. Second one only being Gamera. And also, I just think Gigan, at least the Showa Gigan, is a badass. Best thing about him is his chest buzzsaw.
Yeah, you especially don't want to be on the business end of that.
Yeah, no kidding. I love his buzzsaw. And that's actually one thing I don't particularly care for with Final Wars Gigan. As much as I do love Final Wars Gigan, his chest buzzsaw just wasn't really utilized very much.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't. But did you care for Final Gigan being more humanoid in posture as opposed to the Showa one?
You'll see. We'll save that for a little later.
Alrighty then. My number 14 is the Mutos. Really awesome creatures, and overall they have a really nice design, and it was able to balance between being original as well as being inspired by something else. Gauss.
I don't know about that.
Yes,
Okay,
but don't the Mutos' heads sort of resemble Gauss if you think about it? Like the general shape?
Maybe at the tops of their heads they look kind of similar to Gauss, but outside of that, I think they look different. But finish your thoughts.
Yes, but I do like how the male Muto is smaller than the female, which is really common in a lot of creatures in the animal kingdom. They do have a really nice power set, especially the EMPs and all that good stuff.
Well, the Mutos, I don't hate them, but I'm not a big fan of them. Okay, let me get the good out of the way. First off, I was very glad to hear that Godzilla would be fighting another monster in Godzilla 2014 when I heard that. I mean, I was very glad because I think Godzilla is most iconic when he's fighting another monster. Say what you want about Shin Gojira, Godzilla 1984, and the original all you want. I like Godzilla more when he has something to fight. But the Mutos, I like the sounds that they make. They're very eerie, They're very alien, yet they're also very Earth-like. So it's like a mix between the two. I do kind of like their general design, though I definitely like the male. I think the female is more of a badass, but I think the male is the better design, mainly just because I love how large his wings are. He kind of vaguely resembles Rodan, but I also do think he resembles like a hellish moth. But the bad things about the Mutos that I don't like, their heads, they actually remind me of Gigan. They have like red visor eyes and they have hooked mouths. They remind me very much of Gigan.
Well, I think that was kind of intent.
It may have been. I haven't heard anyone say that for sure. My two biggest problems with the Mutos, this mainly goes in the female. I don't like the fact that it looks very similar to the Cloverfield monster. Yes, the female has more limbs, though actually I do think the Cloverfield monster had 6 limbs as well. It's just 2 of them were so close to its body that you couldn't really notice them all the time. But I think the female Muto looks very, very similar to the Cloverfield monster.
I can definitely see where you're going right there with the general shape of the legs, but obviously Clover's color is very different, as well as the skin texture, his face, but other than that, I can sort of look past that.
Another big problem that I have with the Mutos, I hate their power set. They're basically just like natural animals, which some they may like that aspect. Me, I could have done without the EMP burst. I really could have done without that. I think that was completely tacked on. I don't think that, since I can tell that the creators of the show, they're trying to go for a more realistic approach, I don't see that in any which way, shape, or form being remotely similar to any type of ability that a natural animal can do, except maybe the electric eel, but even that, EMP surges and electric surges, they're 2 different things.
Well, basically, the Muto's EMP to them is kind of like Godzilla's atomic breath. It's something that's like really off left field.
But at least for Godzilla, it makes sense because he fed on radiation. And what I think they should have done for the Mutos, they should have given them a radioactive attack as well. Maybe not an EMP surge, more like a radiation surge.
Like kind of like Godzilla's pulse in the Heisei?
Yeah, like that, though not nearly as powerful. They could have just been like a really short-range radiation burst to just, wipe out life for like a 50-mile radius or something like that. But the EMP burst, I really could have done without it. And overall, I don't hate the Mutos. They were good adversaries for Godzilla 2014, but ultimately, I'm just not crazy about them. And I definitely theorize that the Mutos will be devolved into basically just cannon fodder for monsters to kill in the next MonsterVerse films, which I do hope there's going to be more than just 4.
Yeah, especially we're going to get Rodan, Mothra, and Ghidorah in the next one, so yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah. That's all I really have to say about the Mutos. I like them, but I'm not crazy about them.
Yeah, I have to disagree. So, on your number 13?
My number 13 is from a Godzilla movie that took me so many years to see, and when I finally did manage to see it, I was not disappointed. My number 13 is Biollante. I absolutely love Biollante. I think she is a complete and utter juggernaut. I'm not a big fan of her rose form. It's her final form that I really do like. Biollante in that form is a complete and utter badass. I love the design. I can see the Godzilla traits, but it's a very alien-esque Godzilla design. And overall, it's definitely something that I would not want to tangle with. No pun intended.
Yes, Biollante's design is overall very impressive. It basically spreads out everywhere with all her tentacles and her foliage. And especially the mouth. I really like that it's shaped like a mosasaur with those...
Oh, yeah.
Yes, especially with the inner row of teeth. And those tusks really complete the look of her face. Overall, she's just a really awesome monster.
One more thing I want to say about Biollante. You really got to give props to the special effects guys who executed Biollante, because she has, almost 20 different vines going all over the place. And the body itself, it probably weighed close to 400 or 500 pounds. You really do got to give props to the special effects department for executing this monster, because I'm sure it was a complete giant pain in the ass.
But still, Mecha King Ghidorah, he was so heavy that they couldn't even put a guy in that suit. They had to do it with wires.
I know that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't put a suit actor in Biollante as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they did some kind of animatronic thing.
Yes, as you said, they toyed around with the stop motion, which I have yet to see, so sue me. So I can definitely agree with you on that.
That's my number 13. What's yours?
Alright, my number 13, this is going to piss you off, so my number 13 is Gyra. He's a really cool one. He's a very personal monster that he goes around eating people, and just the way he's built up, the way he's portrayed on screen. I like his roar, his personality, his general design.
Well, I don't hate Gyra. He's not my favorite Gargantua. That's Sanda, without a shadow of a doubt. He's a good villain. I'll give him that. He certainly is a very good kaiju villain, and I can see why David likes Gyra more than Sanda. And I definitely do respect that Haru Nakajima stated that his favorite role and what he thought was his best role was Gyra. I definitely can see that.
Yeah, because he could actually see where he was going around.
Yeah, that too, but it just kind of makes me wonder why he didn't play the Sasquatch in Half Human, but I digress. Gyra, I'm just kind of indifferent for it. One reason I'm not crazy about Gyra is I do kind of think his roar is a little annoying because you hear it so many times throughout the film. At least with Red King, yes, he has pretty much the same roar, but Red King doesn't roar nearly as much as Gyra does. I mean, whenever a rare occasion occurs when I do watch War of the Gargantuas, sometimes I just have to turn it off because Gyra just roars so many fucking times. I've said this before, I've really tried to like War of the Gargantuas, and there was a time where I think I kind of did, but over the years since I purchased Rodan and War of the Gargantuas combo pack, I've tried probably about 10 times to like War of the Gargantuas. I just can't do it. I really can't do it. Whenever I watch the film, it just drives me insane.
Well, at least you tried, and that's important, so...
Yes, and believe me, I've really tried to like War of the Gargantuas. I just can't do it. Same with Guardian of the Universe. I just can't do it.
But overall, Gyra has a really nice design. Like, I like how the fur is kind of like seaweed, if you think about it.
Yeah, like, I like Gyra's design. He definitely looks like he comes from the sea.
Yes, I mean, that's definitely plausible because he's in the ocean and he would need to camouflage himself so he can sneak up and eat things. So, yeah,
Gyra
totally.
Is just okay. I definitely will always prefer Sanda over Gyra, but Gyra's just okay.
Yeah, go figure. Alrighty then, so your number 12?
My number 12, Manga Orochi from Ultraman Orb. Ultraman Orb, I was just kind of indifferent about it when it first came out, kind of like with Ultraman X. But as the months went by and I watched Ultraman Orb more, Orb kind of grew on me. He's not one of my favorite Ultras, but I definitely do like him. And there are some kaiju in that series that I really do like. My favorite of which being Manga Orochi. I love the design from Manga Orochi. I like the very reptilian, scaly design that they have. I love his head. I like he has a giant, like kind of like a Destroya horn. His roar is a little annoying because it's a little screechy, but I don't really think it fits that design, but I guess it's okay if you just get past it. I love Manga Orochi's attacks. He definitely looks like a complete and utter powerhouse, and I love the color scheme. His eyes and his horn, they're like a deep, dark, glowing red, and his skin is a very rusty brick red color with yellow fringes. I think his chest is purple.
Yeah, which looks so scarily similar to Destroya. That's what I would have to say.
I wouldn't say that he's similar to well, okay, maybe in his color and the fact that he's pretty spiky all over. You know, maybe they took a couple notes from Destroya when they designed Manga Orochi, but I ultimately do think that they're different enough to be their own thing. Whenever I do see Manga Orochi, usually Destroya doesn't come to mind, except for Manga Orochi's horn, but that's about it.
Yeah, I like the general placement of the spikes in that you see them around his shoulders as well as those fleshy things on his back and as well as on the legs. And also the shape is very unique. I mean, it's not like 100% unique, but it really reminds me of Veron's spikes and how they're very distinct. Too. Yes. So overall, I kind of like this design. I mean, it's a perfect balance of being very reptilian and demon-like as well as being very humanoid. So.
Yep, there you go. And also, Ultraman Orb's final fight with Manga Orochi is one of my absolute favorite Ultraman fights in the entire franchise. He gets his fucking tail cut off, for Christ's sake. It's just so brutal. It's so awesome. Fight between Manga Orochi and Ultraman Orb in his Thunder Breastar form is freaking awesome. I think you said that it was pretty awesome, too.
Yes, I would have to agree. I mean, he looks very unique and very spiky all over. It's just the hands are a little too human-like for the rest of the body.
That's my only little issue with it, too. I think his hands are a little too small. They're not completely in well proportion with the rest of his body, but that's a slight nitpick on my part. I love Manga Orochi.
I genuinely would have liked this design a lot more if he had those giant-ass Spinosaurus claws, so...
Certainly, yeah.
Yes.
You're number 12.
Alright, so my number 12 is Manda.
Really?
Yep. I'm not kidding you. All right. So Manda, I like how he's very similar to Mothra in that he's worshipped as a god by some strange civilization. And in terms of the general design, he's a little generic, especially in terms with like Japanese and Chinese dragons. But I do like his unique power set in that he can constrict his body and all that shit. It's just that we don't... Yeah, I know. The problem, however, is that he's kind of underutilized in the entire series, like even more so than Ghidorah. He has the brief fight with the Gotengo in his first movie, and then in Destroy All Monsters, he doesn't do much. He just topples a bridge. And then in Final Wars, he gets his ass handed to him again. But as his own monster, I really like him, and he basically exemplifies everything that's really awesome with Japanese dragons. But
I'll give you that. Manda, I've never even remotely been much of a fan of. I do agree that, yes, he is pretty generic. He doesn't have that many powers. Any movie that he's been in, he's been miserably underutilized. I still haven't seen Atragon, though I've researched the film quite a bit, and obviously I've seen Adam's review, and I just kind of think the movie would have been a lot better if either A, they did much more with Manda, like make him a much bigger threat, and actually have him attack a city or two in the film, or Manda just wasn't in it at all.
yeah, Manda's presence is definitely something that I improved on in my manga interpretation, in that we actually see him destroy ships. Of course, it's a fan project, so I can't give too much details on it, but I really like the original design as well as the 2004 design. I'm just not a fan of the 1968 one, because he looks just like a snake with tiny...
Yeah, my favorite design of Manda is definitely the 2004 version. I think that's the definitive Manda design. It's still a little generic, but it looks more refined.
Yes, the things that really sell Manda's design to me is the very yellow sort of cat-looking eyes in his original film.
Oh, certainly.
Yes, I mean, those are really distinctive, and even though it's very darkly lit, those yellow eyes are just really menacing, and even though the face is a little too stiff for my liking, but...
A little bit.
Yeah, and the 2004 design is a very big facelift, and I also like how they changed the spines to resemble Varan.
I can see that too.
Though I do wish that he had bigger arms, like, as I said, I wish...
Overall, still, Manda just never really has done much for me.
Yeah.
Not even in my recreated universe.
Yeah, but still, me personally, I still feel that Manda is a really underrated kaiju, just like Varan.
Varan is even more so.
Yeah, go figure. Alright, so what's your number 11?
My number 11, speaking of Godzilla Final Wars, Monster X. Not Kaiser Ghidorah, Monster X. I love Monster X. I think he's one of the most underrated Godzilla kaiju out there. I love the skeletal armor on black muscle design. Anything that has that type of design motif, I really do like, except for C. Bozu from the original Ultraman. I think that one is just too utterly ridiculous. But Monster X, I love that he has a very alien yet very humanoid appearance while also being very dragon-like. I like the fact he's a very agile monster, I mean clearly, and it looks like he has some type of martial arts training, which I also do like. I love his gravity bolt attack. I mean, that's something that can knock Godzilla on his knees. My only little issue with Monster X, obviously his name is very generic. I really don't like Monster X's roar, but I love his design. I love his power set. And it's a damn shame that he wasn't in the Wii version of Godzilla Unleashed, because he was supposed to be in there, but he was scrapped because the developers stated that his transformation to Kaiser Ghidorah would have been too difficult on the Wii engine. But overall, I think Monster X is a complete and utter masterpiece of a monster.
Yes, his moves would have been a really good addition to Godzilla PS4 had he been in there.
Maybe.
So anything else?
Nope, that's about it.
Alrighty then, so my number 11 is Otachi. It was kind of a difficult decision for me on where to place the Pacific Rim monsters, but definitely Otachi kind of sticks out to me the most, along with Leatherback. They're both awesome.
Now, which monster was Otachi again? I haven't seen Pacific Rim in about a year.
She was the flying one.
Oh, the one where Gypsy Danger first used his sword to cut off her wing?
Yeah, definitely. And I also like that...
I remember now. The one that spits acid.
Yes, I really like her design because it's kind of like a mishmash of all the other kaijus. Like, for example, she has the face that's really similar to Anguirus. Definitely the wings are from Rodan, and her spines on her back are really similar to Baragon.
I can see that too. Yeah, Otachi is because like I said, Pacific Rim Kaiju, they've never rocked my world, but Otachi, she's probably my second favorite Pacific Rim Kaiju, because it seems like Otachi has a personality and some type of intelligence. Same with Leatherback.
Yeah, I also like that she's a trifibian monster, that she can swim in the ocean, she can go on land, she can fly, basically just like Varan.
Yeah, I like that too.
I also like the way that she's executed, is like especially when she just jumps out of the ocean and confronts Crimson Typhoon, and then later when she comes up to shore and starts wrecking Hong Kong. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yep, Otachi's cool.
Yeah, overall her destruction scenes are really cool as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not much to say about her, but she has a really cool power set, very cool design.
Yep. My number 10. This one might surprise you too, though this one is definitely more of a giant monster than the previous creature from this series. Number 10, the Queen Alien from the Alien franchise. The Queen Alien is freaking awesome. I think the Queen Alien is up there with some of the best American giant monsters. I mean, I'm not a big fan, but I definitely do think the greatest American monster is King Kong. Right next to that is the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. And I think right behind that should be the Queen Alien. Queen Alien is awesome. I love her design. I like how large she feels. I mean, the prop for the aliens alone stood 14 feet tall. And I'm sure it must have weighed 3/4 of a ton because it was so big. There's 2 people inside of it, and they used rods and cables to control the whole thing.
That's actually pretty cool. I like that angle.
Yeah, me too. The Alien vs. Predator Queen Alien, well, yes, it's pretty much all CG. I mean, there is a prop used for it, but there's only a few shots. I like how it feels very T-Rex-ish. She runs and moves like a T-Rex. She stalks her prey like a T-Rex. Alien vs. Predator Queen is awesome. And any appearance that the Queen Alien has been in, instantly it's so much way better.
Does she show up in your rearview mirror when she's chasing you?
I hope not. But the Queen Alien is awesome. It's definitely one of the biggest highlights overall of the Alien franchise. Your number 10?
Alright, so my number 10 is Mothra. Obviously one of the most iconic kaijus in the Toho universe, aside from Godzilla. Yeah, I really like her concept and her creation. The way she's characterized is very cool in that she's a benevolent monster that only attacks when humanity does shit to her.
Okay.
And I do agree with the consensus that Mothra vs. Godzilla cemented both Godzilla and Mothra as their own separate franchises.
Yeah, I can see that too. I mean, I've stated a few times I don't like Godzilla vs. Mothra from 1992. It's my least favorite Godzilla movie. But had that movie not been made, we wouldn't have the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy, which I do love.
Yeah, I think Rebirth of Mothra 1 and 3 are the good ones. 2 is just garbage.
2 is the weakest of the series. I'll definitely agree with that. But I don't think it's one of the worst kaiju movies ever made. Super Monster.
But yes, I really like the way she's executed, and she's a very iconic monster, as well as the Shobijin.
I hope that's one thing they'd leave out of Godzilla King of the Monsters, is the Shobijin.
Yeah, they're just not plausible for our modern 21st century film universe. But yes, definitely Mothra's design really stands out as well. I like Mothra's roar and her power set, also very unique.
It's a hyper sped up version of Anguirus' roar.
Never quite noticed that. Overall, Mothra is a really good kaiju. As I said, my 3 favorite appearances of hers are the original Mothra vs. Godzilla and Three-Headed Monster. Though I do
My favorite of hers is definitely Mothra vs. Godzilla. Outside of that, I just think all of her appearances are just okay. Though her second best is the original Mothra.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's all I had to say for the moment. So, your number 9.
My number 9, speaking of which, once again, the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. Oh my god, nothing will ever, it's obvious that the T-Rex is the face of Jurassic Park. They tried to do it with the Spinosaurus in Jurassic Park 3 and it utterly failed, so that's why I'm so glad that the skull logo for Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom is the T-Rex once again. I mean, obviously at the time, special effects were absolutely groundbreaking, both in CGI and also in the life-size animatronic for the T-Rex. T-Rex is freaking awesome. The breakout scene from the original Jurassic Park, even though it's a PG-13 rated movie, I would definitely say when I first saw it, it was one of the most terrifying scenes I ever saw in my life. And to this day, whenever I watch Jurassic Park and I start to hear those rumbling footsteps and you see the water rumble and vibrate with the footsteps, I get shivers up my spine whenever I hear those footsteps. And I was so glad to see Rexy, as she's been named, fight the Indominus Rex in Jurassic World. Even though it's basically just an animal fight with no powers involved, it was still badass as fuck.
Yeah, because it awakened the original fan in you.
I guess you could say. But overall, the T-Rex is one of the most iconic creatures ever created in American film. And even though that paleontologists nowadays are trying to pull up all this crap that the T-Rex had feathers and
Oh god, don't even get me started on that.
and it squawked more like a duck or a goose or some kind
Oh
of bird.
god.
That shit. Maybe the chicks had feathers, but I think as they grew up, they molted away. The Jurassic Park version of the T-Rex is the definitive T-Rex design. And it's very obvious. I mean, have you played the game Dino Crisis?
No, I haven't. But do go on.
If you watch some gameplay of that, it's very obvious that it was inspired by Jurassic Park, because the T-Rex design for that film pretty much is the Jurassic Park T-Rex. So that's all I have to say about that. What's your number 9?
Alright, so my number 9 is Slattern. I just love the way that he just comes out of the breach, especially how massive he is, and his execution is brilliant.
Oh, is it Category 5 Kaiju from Pacific Rim?
Yeah, totally.
I didn't know that monster had a name.
Yeah, but he is just so awesome, and you really get the sense of how huge he is compared to the Jaegers.
Honestly, that monster for me just kind of felt tacked on, mainly just because, I mean, you had nothing but Category 4 Kaiju for pretty much like 80% of the film. You had a Category 3 being Knifehead, and you had a Category 1 at the very beginning of Pacific Rim.
Well, I don't think Trespasser would have been a Category 1 had he been given the definition. Like, he would have been more like a Category 4.
Maybe, but I don't really know. But I just kind of feel like they had to throw in a Category 5 the last minute, which I didn't really like. But the fight with that monster, it was fun, though I do think that the monster was killed a little too easily.
I wouldn't say that he was killed too easily, because when Striker Eureka blew herself up, she managed to kill Scunner, but Slattern was still holding on.
Obviously wounded, very much so at the time, but...
Yeah, but it still demonstrates how powerful he was, considering how he roughed Gypsy Danger up pretty bad.
He was just okay for me. I think he could have been done just a little better. Like, if he had a few minutes to rampage around, I would have liked him a lot more.
Well, I think him being tagged on at the last moment kind of helps to build the action, because we're used to seeing the Category 4, and then once they say, like, oh my god, it's a Category 5, I think that helps to sell even more, is because you get this picture of how gigantic and how powerful he is.
Well, maybe so. Again, I haven't seen Pacific Rim in quite a while, so maybe I just don't remember the biggest impact of that monster. But for the moment, it's just okay.
Yeah, and we still got Pacific Rim 2 on the way.
Yeah, which I'm pretty excited for, even though I haven't seen the trailer. And I'm not going to, so don't ask me to.
Alright, so your number 8?
My number 8, this is a monster that I never showed you a picture of because admittedly it's a new one. Pedanium Zeton from Ultraman G. Ultraman G has started the trend of having hybrid monsters with Ultraman Belial traits. And Pedanium Zeton is without a doubt my favorite. We've had 3 so far. Well, actually 4, but the 4th one is an Ultraman Belial literal kaiju. But we've had 3 so far. There was Skull Gamora, which was a hybrid of Red King and Gamora. There's Thunder Killer, which was a hybrid of Ella King and Ace Killer. And the 3rd being Pedanium Zeton, which is a hybrid of King Joe and Zeton. And Pedanium Zeton, oh my god. The main reason why I like Pedanium Zeton so much is that it is a complete and utter juggernaut. It's got the strength of both King Joe and Zeton. It's got the energy abilities of both King Joe and Zeton. It's got the size and strength of Zeton, along with the durability of King Joe. Pedanium Zeton is a complete and utter juggernaut and a complete badass. I love Pedanium Zeton. And also, it was Pedanium Zeton that led to the appearance of Ultraman G's Magnificent Form. The fight between Ultraman G's Magnificent Form and Pedanium Zeton is another one of my absolute favorite Ultraman fights. Probably even more so than the fight between Ultraman Orb and Maga Orochi. And that is all I have to say about Pedanium Zeton.
Alrighty then, so my number 8 is the Kraken in Clash of the Titans. I didn't know which one to put on the list, so I decided to include both of them. They each have their pros and cons. Like, for example, the one from 1981's Clash of the Titans was really cool in that he was played by stop motion. In one of the last moments of where they used this type of animation, and he was very similar to the creature from 20 Million Miles to Earth.
I can see the similarities between the Ymir and the Kraken from 81. It's all in the face.
Yes, and I think the stop motion, it really worked well with the tonality as well as the universe of the film. It was just an awesome swan song for Ray Harryhausen.
Yep.
The way he moves and how he fills up the screen, and you really get an idea of how big he is in that movie. And then you have the 2010 version, which improves on that and goes to notch 8 with it. Because after Zeus says, "Release the Kraken," you then see the chasm open, and then you see his tentacles just shoot out of the ocean, and his tentacles are just all over the place, like when he throws the ship, and he's already wreaking havoc on the city before he rears his ugly head. So
ugly being the operative word.
yes, but oh my god, when he lets out his roar, it is just so astounding, and they are able to execute that. He's really massive, he's gigantic, he's awesome, oh my god, so cool.
Okay, so for me, I saw the 2010 remake first, only because at the time I was on a big Sam Worthington binge because I had just seen Avatar. The 2010 remake of Clash of the Titans, I've seen both. Don't get me wrong, I've seen both. The original is a much better film, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt. The 2010 remake just feels very rushed. I haven't seen Wrath of the Titans, though I've heard it's a little better than the first film. The 2010 Clash of the Titans, I just think it's one of those remakes that was just completely unnecessary. But I think I prefer the 2010 version of the Kraken more because I've never been the biggest fan of the 81 version. I mean, the way that the Kraken is handled in both movies, I think, is kind of lazy because at least with the 81 version, there's 2 scenes where you see the Kraken, whereas with the remake, it's just one. The remake, the Kraken just literally feels like he was, oh yeah, this is the Clash of the Titans, we have to have the Kraken. Let's just toss him at the last minute. Because he literally was. He was only in there in like the last 10 minutes of the movie. He's only on screen for maybe 1 minute. He just shows up, makes a big grand appearance, roars, then gets frozen by Medusa's head, then turns to stone and crumbles to pieces. Literally, that's it.
Yeah, that's literally it, as you said.
But, you know, the scene where the Kraken shows up and utters that ungodly awesome roar, it was a great scene. It's just such a shame that you have all this build-up and finally the payoff is just utterly disappointing.
I mean, is it more disappointing than in Godzilla 2014 where he shows up, does his roar, and then you cut to the scene on the TV?
I don't know. It's kind of debatable now that I think about it.
Yeah, in his way, it kind of feels like that. But yeah, I would definitely love to see Shin Godzilla against the Kraken. That would be the biggest death match of the century.
Or Monster Planet Godzilla.
Oh yeah, Monster Planet hasn't been released yet, but I did hear that he's going to be so awesome.
I am not going to watch a single review of that movie whatsoever.
Until you see it for yourself.
No, not even then. Because if Shin Gojira was as divisive as it was, I'm sure Monster Planet is going to be even more so. But anyway, we're getting off topic.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Oh, you have to say Kraken?
Yes, that's all I had to say. Really awesome in both films.
100% Bogal from Ultraman Mebius. Ultraman Mebius is my favorite Ultraman series. Mebius isn't my favorite Ultra. That's Ultraman Zero. But Bogal is definitely one of the very best aspects about Ultraman Mebius. It was the first true sequel to the Showa Ultraman series. There's debate whether Max does take place in the Showa Ultra series or not, but Ultraman Mebius was definitively a sequel to the Showa Ultra series, and a very, very, very good one at that. There was a lot of returning Showa monsters, but there's also a lot of original ones too. And the greatest of all of the original monsters seen in Ultraman Mebius is Bogal. Not only is Bogal a complete and utter badass, I love Bogal's design. It has a very humanoid, yet reptilian and alien look to it. It also has a complete sentience to it. It has a mind of its own. It has intelligence. It thinks like a human. But it also kind of has a trait from the Skull Crawlers in the fact that it's constantly on the search for food. Even though it's not like constantly starving like it has a high metabolism rate, I think it's just constantly searching for food because it has a bottomless pit for a stomach. Volgal is a complete nightmare monster. She is nothing to fuck around with, and she is a complete despicable and detestable monster, and she is awesome. Absolutely awesome. That's all I have to say about Volgal.
Okay, so my number 7 is Dragon Maleficent in the original Sleeping Beauty.
Really?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because basically, you know how I said how King Ghidorah and Manda basically took everything that was awesome about Asian dragons? Whereas Dragon Maleficent is basically like the coolest of the European dragons, if you think about it.
I can see that.
Yeah, even though she has very little screen time, you just get an idea of how terrifying she is. And we don't even get to see her full body that much. Like, we only see it in, I think it's like one scene before she dies. But when she's on screen, filling up everything, it's just so cool to look at. Like, you see her from behind all those thorns and vines. Like, it gives you a sense of how evil she is and destructive.
Yep.
Which I wouldn't be surprised if Tsuburaya was inspired by Dragon Maleficent and basically worked it into the Orochi in Birth of Japan.
When did Sleeping Beauty come out?
Sleeping Beauty was January 1959, and The Birth of Japan came out in November of that year.
Oh, go figure. Dragon Maleficent, well, let me get this out of the way first. I've never seen the 2012 Maleficent film with Angelina Jolie as her, but I've seen Sleeping Beauty many times. And I think it's one of my favorite Disney movies, but I'd have to rewatch it to make sure. I used to be a big Disney fan, not so much nowadays, though there are still some that I do like. Dragon Maleficent, I like the design. I like the black, purple, and green mix. I like the fact she has green fire that she breathes from her mouth. Dragon Maleficent, I just think she was a good climactic fight to have.
Yeah, she was basically like a final boss, kind of like Slattern as well as the Kraken.
Yep. Dragon Maleficent, I don't really have much to say about her. She has a great design. I like her personality. Overall, she is cool. She's really cool.
Yeah, go figure. Your number 6?
My number 6, Anguirus. God damn, I love Anguirus. It's such a shame that Anguirus has been treated like utter garbage throughout a lot of the Godzilla franchise. I love Anguirus in Godzilla Raids Again. Yes, he pretty much is there just to give Godzilla something to fight, but at least it's a good fight, and Anguirus has a really good design. Anguirus was definitely well utilized in Destroy All Monsters. He certainly tried his best to take on King Ghidorah, and he did get a couple good hits in.
Yeah, especially when you see him hanging onto Ghidorah while he's still flying. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, it is. He could have been utilized a lot better in Godzilla vs. Gigan, because a lot of his combat footage is stock footage. The only reason that they had Anguirus in that film was because they had this perfectly good Anguirus costume that was just sitting there, so they decided, hey, let's have Anguirus thrown in. But I still do appreciate Anguirus being in Godzilla vs. Gigan. In Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, I still think he could have been utilized a little better, but he was okay, I guess. And in Godzilla Final Wars, I love Anguirus in that film. I love his design. To me, that's the definitive Anguirus design. It's a little more ankylosaurian. It's much more refined. I love the colors. It's a very deep greenish gray mixed with the dull yellowish orange of the spikes. He definitely looks more like a quadrupedal monster, but also he can be bipedal if he wants to be. I love the Final Wars version of Anguirus. And overall, I love Anguirus as a whole. And in the Atari Godzilla trilogy, Anguirus is one of my best monsters to play as, because he is a complete and utter juggernaut.
Yeah, I just want to ask you this. Do you feel that the show Anguirus that appears in Destroy All Monsters was basically just another species of the first Anguirus that Godzilla befriended?
It certainly could be possible, though I kind of just tend to chalk it up more as that Anguirus survived his encounter with Godzilla in Raids Again and just made peace with Godzilla.
Me personally, I just felt that Godzilla changed over the period of those films to the point that he found another species of Anguirus and befriended him.
That could be possible too.
Also, your thing about them choosing Anguirus because they had the new suit, I personally think it would have been much easier with the little Varan puppet that briefly appeared in Destroy All Monsters, because it wasn't a suit, it was just a puppet.
Yeah, I knew that.
So they could have just used him instead. Which, funny enough, my number 6 is Varan. As I said, he's a very underrated monster. I just love his design and his power set and his abilities. Even though they're very limited, they still stand out in their own right. And to be honest, I feel that Varan as well as Rodan would have made much better allies for Godzilla than Anguirus.
I think all three could have been the perfect trifecta for Godzilla's allies, along with Mothra.
Yeah, and it was kind of a bummer that, you know how we talked about in 1972, they had this concept for a film that would have featured Godzilla, Rodan, and Varan that later became Gigan?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yes, and a part of me really wishes that that movie came out. But anyways, I really like Varan's overall design. Like, even in Destroy All Monsters, he's cool in that as well, despite the fact that he's so briefly shown.
Well,
But
for me, I also really do like Baron. I like his design. It looks very mammalian-like reptile in appearance. He clearly has scales, but he also has a lot of mammal-like features. I like the fact that he's a trifibian, so that he's an all-terrain monster. I love his roar. And to me, the definitive version of Baron was the one used in the Nintendo Wii version of Godzilla Unleashed, mainly just because he has a mouth projectile in that game. So that to me is just the most definitive version of Baron, because it shows that as a combatant, he actually could potentially hold his own against surprisingly strong monsters.
yeah, I can definitely see that.
So Baron, yes, we've kind of beaten this to death. Baron is a very underrated monster, very unappreciated monster, and it would be so nice if he got more appearances. I think he would be a very good choice to include in the Monsterverse.
Yeah, he is a very underrated kaiju, just like Manda.
I think he's even more underrated than Manda, but that's just me.
Yeah, but at least Varan actually is well executed, unlike Manda.
Yeah, certainly.
Yes. Alright, so your number 5.
My number 5, Gamora from the Ultraman franchise. Kind of like with Red King, Gamora is one of those monsters that's reappeared many times throughout the Ultraman franchise. He appeared in the original Ultraman. He was in Ultraman 80, the Jonius anime, Ultraman Powered, Ultraman Max, Ultraman Mebius, Ultra Galaxy Legends, Ultra Galaxy Legends the movie, and a couple other appearances in Ultraman X and Ultraman Orb, I think. Gamora is a freaking awesome monster. And I think he is one of those Ultra Kaiju that can take on Godzilla and potentially win. Because he is a complete and utter juggernaut, a complete and utter badass. And especially the Ultra Galaxy Legends version, which I do think is the definitive version of Gamora, because he does have a projectile attack, and he can also do form changes like Burst Gamora and especially EX Gamora. That definitely is the definitive version of Gamora. And also, little tidbit, Gamora is referred to as the Prince of Monsters, and where Godzilla is the King of the Monsters. So, maybe in the future, we'd like to see Gamora and Godzilla team up and take down a much more powerful monster.
Oh, don't even tease me with that crossover.
Hey, I think it'd be cool.
Yes.
And actually, a lot of people do think it would be.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. Gamora, he's awesome.
Yeah, I do like the design of his head in that it's very uniquely shaped, and other than that, he's just run-of-the-mill monster, but at least he does contribute a lot to the story and to the franchise, and he's very recognizable. That's pretty much all I have to say about him. So,
You're number 5.
alright, so my number 5 is King Ghidorah. Oh my god, he is so awesome in the Showa series. And I hate to say it, but he also looks pretty cool in the Heisei series, like, even though it's the film around him that I don't care for. But yeah, Showa Ghidorah is just complete badass. He's just ultimately feared by everyone, and he definitely is a very tough rival for Godzilla, probably the toughest other than Hedorah. So
Yeah, I would say that, but
yes, but I just love Ghidorah's overall design of him being this free-headed dragon, and
I
also
think purple and rainbow wing design would have been more appealing.
really, I thought you said that he would have looked terrible in that color scheme.
That design's kind of growing on me. I've stated this many times. I don't like King Ghidorah. I don't like the Showa version. I don't like the Heisei version. I don't like Mecha King Ghidorah. I especially don't like the GMK version. I kind of tolerate Kaiser Ghidorah, mainly just because that's my favorite Godzilla movie and my favorite kaiju movie. The only Ghidorahs that have ever been made that I legitimately do like is Des Ghidorah from Rebirth of Mothra 1 and Grand King Ghidorah from Rebirth of Mothra 3. Those are the only two Ghidorahs that I do legitimately like. Outside of that, I think every other version, except Kaiser Ghidorah, is garbage. I don't like King Ghidorah. He's one of my least favorite Godzilla monsters. Both the old and new, I just think are utter garbage. Well, okay, I tolerate Ghidorah in Invasion of the Astro Monster as well, mainly just because that's one of my favorite Godzilla movies. And he's not horribly utilized in that film, even though it does start the trend of him being under mind control, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. But other than that, still I like Three-Headed Monster the most out of all of his appearances. So, sue me.
Birthday for that.
Yes. Alrighty then, so you're number 4.
My number 4 is Hyper Zeton from Ultraman Saga. Now, granted, Ultraman Saga is an interesting Ultraman movie. It was originally going to be a much bigger film. It was going to feature the return of Dark Zagi, which is an evil Ultraman from Ultraman Nexus. That would have involved Dark Zagi morphing into his final Dark Lucifer form. And Ultraman Saga was supposed to be a hybrid of Ultraman Zero, Ultraman Dyna, Ultraman Legend, and Ultraman Mebius Infinity form. But there was budget cuts, so they had to trim it down considerably. So what we got was Alien Bat and Hyper Zeton as the main villains, and Ultraman Saga being a hybrid of Ultraman Zero, Ultraman Dyna, and Ultraman Cosmos, which is a little disappointing, but I still do really love Ultraman Saga as a movie, and I especially love Hyper Zeton. Holy shit, do I love the design for Hyper Zeton. It's a very slim, slick, and human shape for Zeton. He definitely is a massive powerhouse when it comes to combat, and any monster that has the ability to teleport this way and that to confuse his opponents, I do think that is a very useful ability. Overall, Hyper Zeton, I love the design, I love his personality, I love his power set, and his fight with Ultraman Saga is yet again another one of my absolute favorite Ultraman fights of all time. Hyper Zeton is fucking awesome.
So my number 4 is Kronos from Wrath of the Titans, which unfortunately you haven't seen it yet, but
I have not.
yeah, but still, when he shows up, you just
two-headed dragon type monster?
No, he's not. No, that's the Chimera, but Kronos is the lava guy. He just owns it in the final act of the movie, because you really get an idea of how massive and how godlike he literally is.
He is a god.
But still, he's like if you took an active volcano and personified it into a destructive force, essentially. So whenever he moves, stuff gets destroyed and blown up, and oh my god, you've got to see it to believe it.
Well, there is a combo pack with the 2010 remake and Wrath of the Titans at my local Target for just $5, so maybe I'll get it sometime.
Yeah, unfortunately, there isn't much else we could say about Kronos other than that he's just an all-out giant lava monster that destroys shit. So, your number 3.
My number 3 is Golza from Ultraman Tiga. Much like how Gamora is the Prince of Monsters, I definitely can see an argument being made that Golza might be the Godzilla of Ultraman. First off, Golza and Godzilla, they're pretty similar names, just one's a little shorter. He has a very Godzilla-esque appearance. Obviously, he's very, very different from Godzilla in terms of design, but he's an upright, standing, bipedal, reptilian-esque kaiju. He fires a beam from his head while it's not from his mouth. He has a growling roar, kind of like Godzilla, and just in general, Golza is a complete juggernaut, so is Godzilla. So I definitely could see the argument being made that Golza is the Godzilla of Ultraman. Even more so than Gyrus or Gomez, but let's pretend those two don't exist. I definitely do think he's the best kaiju that we got out of Ultraman Tiga. I mean, I don't like Ultraman Tiga as much as I used to. I actually don't think it's that great of a show. I mean, it's a good return to the franchise after 16 years, but I just don't like it as much as I used to. But Golza, just overall, he is a very, very cool monster. He's definitely deserving of his future appearances in later shows.
I'm looking at his design right now, and I can definitely see that sort of Godzilla sort of posture to his body, which is kind of obvious because it's still a man in a rubber suit, but I still feel that Golza is unique enough to be his own monster, so yeah, definitely giving you props for that.
So you're number 3.
Alright, so my number 3 is Chernobog, the devil from the original Fantasia. Have you seen this movie before, or?
I think I have, but it was like 15 years ago, so I don't remember that much from it. I remember that dinosaur segment, but that's about it.
Yeah, of course you remember the dinosaurs. But anyways, Chernobog is just really imposing screen presence, and it's like he doesn't go around destroying shit and stuff, but he still is representative of evil and black magic, and he's very conniving, very scheming. Even though the entire segment is just a classical music version of The Night of Bald Mountain, he's still able to work up a unique personality that just really shines. And what are your thoughts on this?
I don't really have any because I don't even know what he looks like.
Yeah, but still, if you see the Night on Bald Mountain segment of the original Fantasia, as well as Ave Maria, you can definitely see that level of ingenuity and just overall beauty in the way that those scenes are animated. And I will agree with a lot of people saying that this is one of the most iconic moments in Disney animated film history.
Oh, go figure.
So your number 2.
My number 2, Final Wars Gigan. Yes, he's a completely incompetent cannon fodder monster, but I still love Final Wars Gigan. Both the first version and the chainsaw version. I love the dark navy blue shade of his skin. I love the redesigned scythe claws for the first form. I love the vibrant red eye and the red skin flaps on his wings. I love his eye beam. I love his cyborg appearance. I love the chainsaws on the chainsaw version. I like the serrated head horn on the chainsaw version. I like the scorpion stinger hook on his tail. Overall, I think whoever redesigned Gigan for Godzilla Final Wars did a bang-up fucking job. To me, that is the definitive Gigan design.
Yeah, go figure. I mean, it definitely looks a lot more imposing than the Showa version, and he looks really slim compared to his previous form. And
like you mentioned, I really do like the humanoid posture.
Yeah, see,
even though it's very alien, but it still looks sort of familiar. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very agile, and you really get an idea of how quick he can move around and how he's basically very maneuverable. Though I do have to disagree with you when you say that there's navy blue in his color. I still see Battleship Gray.
Well, okay, yeah.
I guess it's just because of the lighting of that scene that it makes it look navy blue, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, but you know, there are toys of Final Wars Gigan, and they're all colored blue.
Of course, the toys. You don't even get me started on
anyway,
those.
Final Wars Gigan, I love him. Awesome monster.
Yeah, he basically took everything that was cheesy about the 70s version and made it more plausible. So, yeah, props to that. Alrighty then, so my number 2 is Rodan.
Which version?
The Showa versions of Rodan. I'm really not a fan of the Heisei or Millennium versions. But yeah, Rodan, I just think he's a really awesome monster. His roar is awesome. His power set is awesome. His design is awesome. His characterization is awesome. I just really like everything about Rodan. I really do.
Rodan has grown on me over the last few years. When I was a kid, I never was that big of a fan of him. Even as a kid, I was a huge fan of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. Rodan just kind of was for me, though I liked Fire Rodan a lot more. The original 1957 Rodan,
56,
I think, is the best Showa Rodan. He's the scariest. He's the most well-designed. And then let me say this right now. I absolutely hate the Ghidra invasion design for Rodan. I hate the face. It looks very much like a fucking pigeon, but I love the 57 Rodan. It looks very monstrous. It looks very reptilian. I love the black eyes. They're kind of like a shark's. I love the beak. I love the tone of his skin. It's a very vibrant red, reddish brown. Overall, the 57 Rodan is awesome. Though for me, the definitive design for Rodan is the Final Wars version. The Heisei design, I definitely do think it looks great, but the way it functions just doesn't look that good. Like Andres pointed out when he reviewed the film, Koichi Kawakita, he's not that good at making flying monsters. I mean, I actually think his worst flying monster is Mothra and Batra.
Oh.
So Rodan is actually a very close second because of how stiff he is.
It looks plausible. It's just the close-ups of the beak that really kill it for me because it just looks so crooked and damaged and ugh.
I love the uranium heat ray that he has in Fire Rodan form. It's a very vibrant shaded pink, which I do like. But like I said, I think the definitive version of Rodan for me is the Final Wars design. I like the color best. I like the proportions best. I like the fact that he has kind of leathery bat-like wings, and I love his legs too. I mean, that's a weird thing to talk about, but it looks like he has actual functional legs, whereas with the Heisei and Showa version, they just look very stiff and just kind of there. He also looks like a monster that, even though he's a flyer, he could also fight on the ground, which I never got that from the Showa or Heisei design. So Rodan, yeah, he's a cool monster. Ultimately, he's not really one of my favorites, though I do think he is one of the best allies for Godzilla, without a doubt. In fact, I'd probably say he's probably Godzilla's second best ally, aside from Anguirus. That's all I really have to say about Rodan. He's cool, but not one of my favorites.
Yeah, but still, I am just a huge fan of Rodan, and it was really nice when they put the 56 design into Godzilla PS4.
Oh, did it now?
Oh, yes, they did. So, your number 1.
My number 1 one, and now let me just state this. Obviously, my number one favorite monster of all time is Godzilla. You know, that's a given. Specifically, the Final Wars design. But, you know, you said no Godzilla, that would be too easy. So my absolute favorite monster, aside from Godzilla, is the original Zeton from the Ultraman franchise. I love Zeton. I definitely do agree that he's probably the Ultraman franchise's most powerful monster. He's appeared in the original Ultraman, which he legitimately whooped Ultraman's ass. He appeared in Ultraman Jack, Ultraman Powered, Ultraman Max, Ultraman Mebius, Ultra Galaxy Legends, Ultra Galaxy Legends the movie. Obviously, you have Hyper Zeton, there's EX Zeton, Giganto Zeton, Cyber Zeton, and also Zeton had a really big influence on Grieza from Ultraman X, and also there was Hyper Zeton and Ultraman Orb. And also, of course, Zeton makes up Pedanium Zeton. I love Zeton. I love his design. I love his one quote that he says, Zerto. He actually can't speak, he just says his name. Kind of like Mogera. I love his power set. I love his strength. I love Zeton. He is so badass. And to me, tied with Gamora and maybe Red King too, he is the face of Ultra Kaiju, without a shadow of a doubt.
In terms of how Zeton is used in the Ultra franchise, is he kind of like that series Ghidorah in a sort of way?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, he is pretty much like any bad guy's like go-to big hitter for Ultraman to take down because Zeton is just so powerful. But I'll take Zeton any day over Ghidorah. So what's your number one?
Alrighty then, so my number one is King Kong, the American kaiju. Oh my god, King Kong is just so iconic, so famous, so recognizable, so world-renowned. Everyone knows who King Kong is. He's just an amazing, amazing character. Not just a giant monster, but just a character in general. He's relatable, he's agile, he's very dynamic. He just has so much personality to him, and that's what I love about Kong the most.
Well, my favorite version of King Kong, I've stated this before, is the Kong Skull Island version. He's smart, he's agile, he's strong, he's a good fighter, and he's a good character. I don't like the 1933 Kong all that much, mainly just because for the time he was just a generic monster that you only felt bad for when he's dead. The 76 version I think is a big improvement, both design-wise and personality-wise. I haven't seen King Kong live, so I'm not going to talk about that. The Kong 05 version is my second favorite version because that movie is just amazing. I'd say he's pretty much as good as Kong Skull Island version. King Kong vs. Godzilla version I don't really like because that suit is terrible, and I don't like the movie. The King Kong Escapes version, the suit looks terrible, but he's a decent character, and, you know, I like his personality. But King Kong, yeah, he probably is America's famous monster, but
yeah, totally.
I'll take Godzilla any day.
Yeah, because the thing you have to know is that the original King Kong and the original Godzilla were born out of different circumstances. King Kong was created out of excitement and wonder, whereas Godzilla was created out of fear. And even so, Godzilla's character was able to change throughout the years, whereas Kong had a certain character and personality that stayed true throughout most of his incarnations. So,
well, my biggest issue with Kong, except for Kong Skull Island, is why the fuck do they have to kill him every time? Why can't they just capture him and take him back to Skull Island?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Don't get me started on that. But anyway, yeah, if King Kong is your favorite, aside from Godzilla, yeah, it's fine. King Kong is okay. In fact, you know, funny enough, I almost put Mechani-Kong on my list once or twice.
Yeah, but we'll save that for our top 20 favorite mechas, if there are that many.
Maybe.
Yes, but that's definitely an idea that you teased that I would be kind of interested in. So let's see how that goes in the long run. Alright then, so that was our top 20 non-Godzilla monsters. So it's really nice having you on this channel, Nick, and I look forward to hearing again from you soon.
Oh yeah, me too. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for doing this. I had tons of fun. We'll see all of you in the next one.
Alrighty then, take care.